In this episode, we talk about the rollout of the HPV vaccine and who all are eligible for it. We also talk about a man assaulting an airline pilot after his flight was delayed. But first, we talk about the transformation of Ayodhya. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. A little over 31 years after the demolition of the Babri Mosque, where hundreds of car sevaks brought down the masjid, the town of Ayodhya is all set for the inauguration of the Ram temple scheduled for next week. The town, once described as simple and quiet not too long ago, has now undergone a complete transformation. It has acquired a new municipal corporation, a state-of-the-art railway station, a brand new international airport, and has witnessed the establishment of hundreds of hotels and homestays. In this segment, we speak to Indian Express's Maulshree Seth, who recently wrote about Ayodhya's transformation in the paper. Maulshree, for this piece, you spoke to a number of residents from Ayodhya. What do they say about how the city has traditionally been before this entire conversation of the Ram temple started?
See, what the locals feel, before this, Ayodhya was just a town of Faizabad district, which was earlier called Faizabad. Now the entire district is called Ayodhya. So what people felt was it was just a small town, basically mainly had dharamshalas. And so that is how people related with Ayodhya. Whosoever used to come and visit Ayodhya, they would visit Ayodhya and then stay in the center of the city, which used to be Faizabad city.
Right, and in that way it was considered a very simple town, but the other main thing, of course, that was associated with it was the Babri Masjid demolition. What do people recall about the period that came after that?
What residents remember was things changed after that, and there were barricadings all over, forces were deployed, and since that particular time it continued. So when I spoke to locals, they said that even in our daily routine, when we had to go to certain places, and I'm talking about Ayodhya town, so when they had to go to places, they had to cross those barricadings. Every day they would have to show their I cards to move from one place to another, especially when you talk about the center of the town that was there. So all they knew, it had actually converted into a fortress, so where they had to go through different checkings, barricadings and all that. So it kind of, that is the image that they carried since that particular time to this date, until things started changing in past 1 year or so.
Yeah, and in this past year the town has changed completely. It has got a new railway station, an airport, hotels, new infrastructure. Talk about the changes that are most visible when you visit Ayodhya.
The big changes that we see in Ayodhya, first thing is that the very evident that people see is the roads that have like really widened. Because earlier when one would enter Faizabad town, it was basically the town of lanes and old houses, old temples, old dharamshalas. So that one would see. And because since it has been given a theme based everything, so that has kind of changed. And another thing that people see, this kind of acceptance. Even locals say that they never thought that ultimately the temple would be built. They had kind of a doubt. Now that acceptance has come in, even among all across the Ayodhya town, that it is being built, and now they are seeing it as a hope that it would change the economy. They are not bothered about the names that the roads are being given or the fancy decorations. That what they see is that they are seeing it from the economic point of view, because the rates of the shops have increased and the rents have increased. Even the hotels have charging like 10 times, 5 times more than the amount that they were charging earlier. So what they are hoping that once the temple opens, that their economy would change. The shops are hoping that they'll be able to sell more because pilgrims would be coming, as they have been told, like lakhs of pilgrims would be coming. So what they're hoping that things would change, and now they'll see visitors would be staying. That is what they're hoping, that once the visitors would be staying in Ayodhya, things would change for them.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there is now this acceptance that has set in from both sides. In fact, when you went to meet the chief priest of the Ram temple, Satyendra Das, at his ashram, the litigant in the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid title suit, Iqbal Ansari, was sitting next to him. What are the things that, he told you?
So I spoke to him. He said, it's not like we fought this, so we are kind of enemy. No, it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. My father used to be there with him. So I also come to him for that advice more often. And he kind of said that I hope that Ayodhya would take everybody along. The future Ayodhya would also take everybody along. So that kind of acceptance is there. And he was sitting next to him and he was saying that everybody would accept the development, be it any citizen of any town. If the development is taking place or change is taking place, it is acceptable. So everybody would appreciate that. But there was one thing that he said, he kind of hopes that the Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb, which was all the future Ayodhya town, would also continue with that. And there'll be kind of acceptance for everybody in that town. He said that he kind of hopes that. So that acceptance is there and that kind of hope is also there among the citizens.
And Maulshree, you talked about the economy aspect. What are the kind of things that the town relied on earlier in this respect?
When I spoke to people, they said that there are 3 to 4 religious melas that take place around in a year. Because at that particular time, there's a rush of pilgrims coming to the town. So their economy was mainly centric around those 3 to 4 melas that take place in a year. So that was the major source. Otherwise, there used to be dull days mostly. So the economy was centric around because there's hardly anything else. There were no hotels in the past and major hotels in the past in Ayodhya town. So the economy was centric around these 3 to 4 religious melas that used to happen. So people would, even from the neighboring villages and not, they would come in, set up shops, sell things. So it was centric around that. When they'll see that the pilgrims would come in, the numbers would increase. So it was centric around that only so far.
And we understand that over 35 hotels and some 600 homestays have come up in the city. What kind of pressure is that putting on the authority there and the municipality?
It has put in a lot of pressure because so many applications are coming in, and even though things are changing, but they're still not equipped. They're still hiring staff. They're still not that much equipped to handle that kind of pressure, but they're giving licenses to homestays, so they have to do the verification alongside their other activities also which are going on. So it has put a lot of pressure on the local body as well as on the administration, because I was speaking to one of the officials in the municipal corporation. So they said that the biggest pressure has been so far in, because they have to ensure the cleanliness of the area as well. So they already have safai staff, the sanitation staff, and so, but they are hiring more people. 1,500 more safai mitra they are hiring for next 6 months. So starting from the day of the Pran Pratishtha ceremony, for next 6 months they'll hire on the contract basis these safai mitra. Similarly, they are making other temporary arrangements also to handle that kind of a pressure which would be there, because Ayodhya hasn't handled that kind of a footfall in the past. So it is kind of the authorities and everybody, they are kind of preparing themselves, including the locals, to handle that pressure of the footfall that they expect would happen soon after the Pran Pratishtha ceremony would be over from the next day onwards.
And Maulshree, could you give a sense of just how much money has been poured into the town, both from the center and the state, especially when we talk about the new airport and the new railway station?
Yes, if we talk about just the international airport project, so it's close to about 1,500 crore. So 1,500 crore is just the international airport new building that has come up. So what they have done, the main infrastructure, be it the railway station or the airport, all of them have been made into architecture that has been followed is the Nagar style. So basically Nagar style was the architectural style which was followed in the ancient temple. So that style they have followed in the construction of buildings, be it the airport or the new railway station. And the railway station itself, it's about roughly about 251 crore have been spent on the construction of this new building itself. So it's because it has been made into a state of art. And then there are different roads that have been widened, so different amount has been put in. If we talk about in terms of money itself, right now the Ayodhya Development Authority is monitoring roughly about 30,000 crores of projects alone just in Ayodhya. So these are different projects, be it the road widening or the covering of the drainage system or beautification of the ghats, the lightning, because they're expecting the tourists to come in and have a stay. So they are also planning sound and light shows in the evening around the ghats. So beautification of the ghats is also there. So a lot of things are happening in Ayodhya. And as I said, there's roughly about 30,000 crores are still being implemented on ground, which are being monitored by the Ayodhya Development Authority. So, and if we talk about just last month 30th, when Prime Minister was there, so roughly about 11,000 crore projects he had inaugurated or laid foundation stone off. So certainly a lot of investment is being made into Ayodhya, be it from the center government or the state government. Both the governments are putting in a lot of money to build the infrastructure and other facilities in Ayodhya right now.
And since all of this is centered around the Ram temple, in what way can we see that being reflected in the names and the symbols that have been used all over town?
Yes, you can have that kind of a sense when we talk about, say, two main paths that have been formed, like Rampath or the Dhanpath. These 4-5 paths which have been formed, like then obviously there's Ram Janmabhoomi path, which is the widened road which is leading to the Ram Janmabhoomi side. Apart from that, there's Rampath, and there were shops on the both side of these paths. So what has happened? All the shutters of the when you walk through it, all the shops from the outside, they have been painted and decorated in one color. So if we talk about just say Rampath, so it's basically a base cream has been given, and then in white color you see a design like that of a temple over the shop. Even the shutters have been given the same color, brown color, all the shutters. And when these shutters are closed of these shops, you'll see the symbols of Shankh, Dhanush, or Ram written over it. So those kind of symbols you can see. So these are visible all through along the road, be it the Rampath or the Dhanpath when you walk through them. If we just talk about, say, Dhanpath only, on that particular stretch, even the lights which are there, they are in the shape of sun. So the officers say that they are kind of reflecting because Ram belonged to Suryavanshi. So it symbolizes that Suryavansh of Ram. If we talk about the railway station, you see a half crown there. So it's kind of that Suryavanshi, the crown of Ram symbolizing that. So it's very hard to miss the symbols related to the mythology. Once you walk those lanes, so it's very on the both side of the road, you can see these symbols all along.
And Maulshree, in your conversation with the people there, is there any one particular thing that has really stood out to you?
So everybody across India or otherwise are looking towards the construction of Ram temple. But when we talk about locals, they are seeing, as I said it earlier, they are seeing in terms of whether it would change the economy of the town itself. And if you talk about the local, see, Ram temple or other places, they have been there. So they don't connect to it that much as far as they are more seeing it in terms of how it would bring a change in their lives as far as economy is concerned. Because locals, the youth used to go out and work. So now they are getting work within Ayodhya. There are a lot of construction work which is going on. Even people are working there on the Ram temple side. So locals are seeing it more from the point of view of economy.
And next we talk about the HPV vaccine. In a significant step that can reduce the incidence of cervical cancer, the second most common cancer in women in India, the government is set to roll out an HPV, human papilloma vaccination campaign for girls between the age group of 9 to 14 years. The vaccine, which is said to be 97% effective against preventing cervical cancer, will be administered in 3 phases under a government program over the next 3 years. To understand more about the HPV infection and the vaccine rollout, my colleague Niharika Nanda speaks to Indian Express's Anonna Dutt in this segment.
So Anonna, can you first tell us what exactly is the HPV infection?
So HPV or human papilloma virus is a viral infection that is primarily spread through sexual contact, and it basically leads to repeated infection in the genital region causing genital warts, etc. While not all the infection leads to cancer, and in fact almost all of the infections heal on their own, it is persistent infection with some high risk types such as type 16 or 18, which lead to most of the cancers. So if we look at cervical cancer, around 90% of it is caused by these persistent HPV infections.
And in the case of India, how many cases of cervical cancer do we see annually?
So right now we have about an annual incidence, that is new cases recorded every year, to be about 1.25 lakhs, and over 75,000 women each year die due to cervical cancer. It's right now the second most common cancer after breast cancer among women. And India has a high burden, meaning that it contributes about 1/5 of the total global burden of cervical cancer.
And Anonna, now let's talk about the vaccines, which we understand prevents the entry of the 4 most common types of HPVs, that is 16, 18, 6 and 11, and thereby prevents the infections, genital warts, and then eventually cancer. Can you tell us what age group of women are eligible to take it?
So the HPV vaccine has to be given to adolescents. The government campaign will cover women, girls between the ages of 9 and 14 years. This is the ideal age group where the vaccine works the best. It can be taken by girls over the age of 14 years as well. It can in fact be taken up to the age of 45 years. However, with age, the efficacy goes down. There are two reasons mainly for this. One is that this vaccine protects against the infection entering the body, which means if a girl is sexually active and already has the infection, the vaccine doesn't help. Secondly, the immune response also generated with the vaccine is much better in younger girls as compared to older women. So ideally, it has to be administered in adolescents. It can also be given to men and boys in the same age group. However, the government program that is supposed to roll out does not cover men. They can get it on their own. The vaccines are commercially available.
And could you talk about what is the process of getting the HPV vaccine and like how many doses one requires?
So the vaccines that are currently available in the market recommend 2-dose regimen. None of them say 1 dose, and in women over the age of 14-15 years old, you need a booster shot as well. So that would be 3 dose. However, the WHO in 2022 came out with fresh set of recommendations which says that for public health programs, in fact, even one vaccine shot has been found to be quite effective in preventing HPV infections, precancerous lesions, and cervical cancer in women. So now it recommends for public health program 1 dose of the vaccine for adolescents, and in case it is given to older women, then it's 1 dose plus a booster shot.
Anonna, you previously mentioned that men can also get this vaccine. But if cervical cancer is primarily a cancer found in women, could you tell us how will men benefit from it?
First of all, if men and boys are given this vaccine, then the transmission of HPV infection goes down. So the men who are vaccinated would not get the infection and pass it on to future partners, which is one of the most important reasons for vaccinating men. But other than preventing cervical cancer per se, HPV infection itself also causes a lot of problems, including genital warts, and it is associated with other cancers such as that of the anus or oropharynx. So these cancer incidents also will go down in men if they are vaccinated against HPV.
Right. And Anonna, what is the government's plan of action for rolling out the vaccine to a population as large as India's?
So the government program will vaccinate only girls between the age of 9 and 14 years in a, say, catch-up campaign. Once that is done, the vaccine will become a routine immunization for girls at 9 years of age. So there'll be a tie-up with schools so the children can be vaccinated in the schools as well as at the government's already existing vaccine points in, say, the primary health centers and sub-centers where other immunization programs are also carried out. The catch-up will happen in 3 phases, most likely over the next 3 years, where 1/3 of girls of this age will be vaccinated. Once a particular region is vaccinated, the vaccine in 9-year-olds. So basically the first year, 1/3 of the population will be targeted. Second year, 1/3, plus everybody who turns 9-year-old in the area that has previously been vaccinated. So that's how the vaccination drive will take place.
And does India plan on rolling out its own HPV vaccine? Considering that we went through a very similar process with COVID-19 recently. So do you think that that has helped in its development?
So Serum Institute of India has been working on its own HPV vaccine, which will compete with, say, Gardasil, which is available to protect against 4 and 9 of the most common cancerous types of HPV. But the one that has been developed by Serum called Cervavac will protect against the 4 most common types of HPV that lead to cancers. This is supposed to be much cheaper than the vaccines that are currently available in the market. When it comes to COVID-19, well, this vaccine was under development before COVID. So I don't know how much that has helped, but certainly COVID has helped in setting up of infrastructure, not only for manufacturing vaccines, which India anyway produces like 1 in 5 doses of any vaccine, but also developing our own vaccines, conducting trials, getting it through the regulatory mechanism. So all of that has been put in place. It's working better. It's working faster now after COVID. So that might have helped, but the vaccine has been under development for a while, and it has been shown to be as effective as the other vaccines available in the market that are quadrivalent.
Also, we have heard that WHO has suggested a 1-dose vaccine for cervical cancer. Is that on the cards for India as well?
So right now we are planning for a 2-dose and procuring doses accordingly, but the expert group that sort of advises the government on introduction of vaccines has asked the Indian Council of Medical Research to conduct a study to see whether 1 dose is as effective in Indian population as 2 doses. And based on the results of the trial, we might switch to a 1-dose vaccination campaign.
And in the end, we talk about the Indigo Airline incident. A passenger on board a Delhi to Goa flight of Indigo Airlines was arrested on Monday after he allegedly assaulted the plane's pilot following an alleged delay of 13 hours due to foggy conditions on Sunday evening. The passenger, Sahil Kataria, who owns a stationery shop in Delhi and was travelling with his wife, was later let out on bail. In the now viral video of the incident, at around 7 p.m. on Sunday, the pilot of the plane is seen addressing flyers about the delay when the accused in a yellow hoodie suddenly rushes towards him and drives a punch to his face. After being assaulted, the pilot is seen stepping back as one of the air hostesses tries to control the situation.
Please, let's not fall out. You are lying.
In the video, the passenger is seen hurling abuses at the pilot and saying if he cannot land the flight on time, he should open the aircraft gates and let all the passengers go. Indigo issued a statement after the incident saying it is being referred to an independent internal committee for appropriate action. Earlier in the day, the Deputy Commissioner of Police IGI said that on the basis of the complaint filed by the pilot, an FIR under IPC sections pertaining to punishment for voluntarily causing hurt and wrongful restraint has been lodged in the matter. Meanwhile, in the wake of an unprecedented fog situation in Delhi, Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia yesterday assured passengers that measures were being taken to mitigate the impact of adverse weather conditions on air travel. In a post on social media platform X, Scindia acknowledged the challenges faced by the Delhi airport due to the dense fog, with visibility fluctuating and at times dropping to zero, as was the case between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Sunday. Scindia said the Delhi airport has been instructed to expedite the operationalization of the CAT-3 enabled 4th runway in addition to the existing CAT-3 enabled runway. CAT-3 is a highly precise way for airplanes to land even in poor visibility, allowing them to descend to just 100 feet above the runway with clear guidance, and the runway needs to be visible within 200 meters. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and was produced by Niharika Nanda and me, Shashank Bhargav. If you liked the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.